What up, Buckeye Nation? Apparently, the wrong video is currently playing. That's just wonderful right there. Well, anyway, what's up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Scoop. I'm Devin. Sorry about that. Got a good show. Well, I don't know if you want to call it like good. It should be entertaining. The information in it is very we'll just have to get into this thing, man. But before we do, I need y'all to do something for me, man. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. And also, super chats are open. Our super chats go to our pay it forward, help out our veterans who help us out every single day. If you are listening on Spreaker or if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a like as well. And I guess that video I played, to be honest, it was an accident, but it does relate to today's show. We're going to dive into some more Michigan. I don't even have a word to describe what has been going on anymore. Justin Spiro put out a pretty insane story today. It's not even a story. He put out some pretty insane backed up information today about Michigan, about Sharon Moore, some things that have been going on there that are just now being uncovered. But I definitely 100% am going to need some help diving into and talking about this today. So, Nevada, how are you, man? Uh, we got a big one to talk about tonight.
It, uh, you know, it. I've seen a lot. I'm an older guy. That's one of the benefits of being older is that you've seen a lot in your time. Um, this one, this one's kind of this is out there, man. This is out there, and I'm not shaken by much, but this one is a little disturbing. It's a little disturbing, and it's so crazy and so disturbing. But the fact that the centerpiece of the story was Sharon Moore, who 90 days ago, 120 days ago, was the head football coach at the University of Michigan, is absolutely astounding to me. And that's what makes this story sports relevant. That's why it makes it Buckeye Scoop, as well as the fact that Sharon Moore in the story. But I don't want to bury the lead. We'll get it. Basically, let me just tell you the story. I'll tell you the
Yeah.
story. And for those of you who are on Twitter, feel free to go to Justin Spiro, and on Twitter, he's got this whole story. This story is sensitive contact. So if you're, we're not gonna, we don't curse on the show. We're not gonna, but it is sensitive context. I want to issue that warning as we're kind of getting into that. We will not be graphic. We're not, but leave it to your imagination. So the story goes that there's a staffer at Michigan, LaTroy Lewis, who was hired under Harbaugh, continued to work there after Harbaugh left, when Sharon Moore takes over the job, and is involved in a disturbing relationship, shall we say. And this relationship escalates to the point of just incredibly graphic threats and violence and things. And in the story, Sharon or Justin has all the receipts. He has all the texts and the voicemail messages, and I mean, this is all documented on it. So this isn't hearsay. This isn't what is Justin Spirit. But it was kind of a scary situation involving violence against this particular woman. So this woman then goes to Sharon Moore and says, "Look, this is what's going on with one of your staffers." And Sharon Moore, as a under title responsible party, has a responsibility to report this up, up the line. I'm not sure exactly what the word. There's a word for that. Instead, he decides to start propositioning the woman and start threatening her and trying to coerce her into activities with him. And I'm leaving out an awful lot because this is a
Yeah.
family show, and don't like to, we're not going to go into it. So if you want to, and there's sensitive contact, you can go to the Twitter. But that what in the world, Devin, is going on up there at Michigan? What has been going on up there? Because whenever I read a story like this, see a story like this, I always put myself in the shoes of, what if this was Ohio State? What if this was going on at Ohio State? What would I think? And I'd be like, uh, the fact that the head coach of Michigan has a victim of violence against her, and he doesn't report it. He doesn't, in fact, he then writes a letter of recommendation for this guy to go get another job. And the guy's currently in the NFL as a defensive line coach.
Yeah,
That's what Sharon Moore did with the information. I'm sorry, I'm going for these dramatic pauses just because I'm out of words, Dev.
yeah,
I don't really know what to say.
yeah. Dude, trust me, I know, because when you think about this, and we know what Sharon Moore did that kind of brought all this to the light. We know that they're doing an internal investigation, but this is something that Justin Spiro has dug up on his own. And when you see Justice Spear has text messages. These aren't he said, she said. There are seem to be um, text messages that show these things, these series of events have occurred. They seem to be corroborated very well. Justin Spiro is known for, he's not going to put something out unless he has it. Obviously, you don't put something like this out unless you have it, because you could put yourself in some hot water. Um, but the fact that this type of behavior, because we knew Sharon Moore was up to it, but the fact that this type of behavior was going on with another GA, right? Another coach there, it just makes you wonder, man, how far did this thing reach? How far did this type of behavior and attitude go? And as I always say, the most important thing are these players, these men or whatnot. And we already know that there are some, you know, speculation out there that some of these guys knew, some of these players knew about this. I mean, use that to their advantage, to get on the field for playing time and different things. So it's kind of like, bro, I don't know. It is. It's mind boggling. It's hard to speak about. It's so insane. When you read that article, I mean, it's hard to read it, first off, let alone come on here and talk about it. But you got, Sharon Moore is sitting in that court case he's at now, arguing, trying to get charges dropped and all those things. Yet all of these things have been piling up. He seems to be a dark, dark, dark human being who was the head coach of Michigan. The head coach, man. It is just, it's insane. And after you speak more on this, we're gonna relive this list of Jim Harbaugh and his amazing hires that he's had.
Well, I mean, Dev, it was 90 days ago. This guy was the head coach at the University of Michigan. 90 days ago was the head coach of the University of Michigan, and in this thing. There's a text exchange where she asked him about some of the allegations against him, and he's like, "Oh, that's just lies made up by Justin Spiro on the Buckeye Scoop show." So he actually gives us a shout out. So the fact that we were shouted out by Sharon Moore, and apparently part of these conversations were going on while he was on the run, while he was on the run, from the attempted murder suicide butter knife thing. So like it's a crazy timeline that actually has a Buckeye Scoop tie to it, because Sharon Moore shouts us out in these text message exchanges with this victim. And like, we're a podcast. I mean, we're the largest Ohio State podcast by far, the largest one of all time ever on YouTube. But we're a podcast. Sharon, what are you doing? Well, like you're paying so much attention to what's being said about you on the Buckeye Scoop podcast. And I know that when Justin Spiro came that night and dropped the bombs about the blonde bimbos and the whole thing that Sharon's got to type. I know that kind of broke the internet, and clearly it broke Sharona, my Sharona, whatever it was. But
Yeah.
he actually shouts us out in this thing as he's trying to usher his defense. Oh, it's all lies. My lawyers are all lined up. Well, we haven't heard from any lawyers. There's a thing that you're protected by whenever these things go on. It's called the truth. And as long as you're
Yeah.
talking about the truth, it's a pretty good shield. But yeah, a disturbing story. The hot boxing up there where the current Michigan players were smoking dope in the locker room and doing that's just like Tuesday at Michigan. That was just kind of a fun story. But this is dark. This is a much darker story. This is a much more disturbing story. And you wish you could say it was an isolated incident, but I'm sure that when you read the names, this is a pattern. I think I want to get it right, but I think Justin said that they've had like 13 coaches arrested in the past 4 years. I mean, it's something like there's something. It's some crazy stat. It's like not NCAA violations or not show cause. We're talking about like arrests, and I know it's double digits, and it's just wild to me that guy less than 3 months ago, that guy was Jordan Marshall was. He's the best coach in college football. He's on the Mount Rushmore. And Jim Harbaugh's gone. He's great. I don't have to throw the one word great, but Sharon Moore is a great coach. What in the world was going on up there, Dev? Riddle me that.
Yeah, it's to the point, at least for me, where when I read this thing, it's like I pray and I hope that things have changed drastically inside for a lot of people's sakes, and hopefully it has. But the level at which this has gone is it's beyond words to be happening at Michigan, a pretty prominent college, especially in college football. You got all these families and all these young men there. And, as a head coach, you have to sit down and have these meetings with them, help them through their problems, try to, try to discipline them for things that they're doing incorrect. And the whole time you're sitting back, letting your other coaches run around and do this kind of stuff. It's like the details in that, you know, they outline the devil, it seems like. You know what I'm saying? Because the things that, supposedly, allegedly this girl was pretty close to Sharon Moore and kind of tried to confide in him in what one of his staffers had allegedly done, and he turns around and uses that and does what he does. It's insane. But to back this up even further, so far, and this isn't even the full list. Nevada, you brought up the list, but let's look at who Coach Harbaugh hired and thought would be great additions to have around college kids. Sharon Moore, we know all of that. Matt Weiss, Jesse Minter, Steve Klinks Scale, Connor Stallions, Denard Robinson, and now add Latroy Lewis to that list. And that's not even, I have the entire list written down somewhere on a show that I did. But to me, that is a huge part of this. I don't know why people aren't talking about that more. Like how could, I feel like, you don't pick random names out of hats, and 10 out of 10 go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like the odds of a coach hiring people and all of them getting in some type of trouble, to me, leads to one thing. Like that's the environment that was okay under Coach Jim Harbaugh. He leaves, Sharon Moore continues that environment. That's the only thing I can think of, because these guys is do you think they really all were these type of people causing these type of problems before? If they were, then that should have been found out and they should have never been part of this program. But that, to me, that's the most mind-boggling thing here, even beyond what Sharon Moore has been doing, and that is that Jim Harbaugh hired all these people. 2022, LaTroy was hired as a graduate assistant by Jim Harbaugh. That is the thing that's just, dude, it's mind-boggling to me. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the fact that there's been so many guys and so many different instances, and so it just it that's not coincidence. That's not an act. That's not some cosmic accident. That is a culture that is so debased that people feel like they can just do anything. And you see that environment, and you see that was the environment that Connor Stallions was operating in. This whatever, nobody cares, anything goes. Uh, you know that's the only way something like that happens, because in a normally functioning business, people like this kind of get ostracized. You're having this type of behavior and people are like, hey, that's not cool, don't do that. No, we don't do that here. No, that's not right. No, what are you doing, dude? You know what I'm saying? Instead, this was like, I'd like to say it was like Animal House, but Animal House was kind of good natured and fun and toga parties and stuff like that. This is way darker than that, man. This is way
Yeah.
darker than that. The fact that you had this operating alongside, you know, Alex Yude, trying to meet
Oh
minors
yeah.
at
I didn't even mention
Walmart,
him.
Matt Weiss, the largest pornography scandal in the history of the United States. I mean, like, just it's like scandal on top of scandal on top of scandal. Like, the fact that Sharon Moore would offer this guy a letter of recommendation and not report his activities to superiors up there, I mean, and not fire him, is just crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. And the fact that this all has happened, it's kind of like speeding tickets at Georgia. Okay. Do you think that the fact that there's 57 million speeding tickets at Georgia is a coincidence? No, that's a cultural issue. This
Yeah.
is not this is not an accident. This is a cultural issue that they've had up in Michigan that goes all the way up to Ward Manuel. You talk about how high can it go? I mean, it's hard to go up higher than the head football coach. That's pretty far up the food chain. You know what I'm saying? But you've got
Yeah.
Ward Manuel, the only one left, who's under this internal investigation. I fully expect him to be gone. But like, I just can't believe this stuff could go. Like, this wasn't going on. Back in the good old days before people knew what was right and wrong. This was happening months ago. This was happening recently, and it was happening from the head football coach at the University of Michigan, and the leaders and the best. Those that stay will be champions. Those that stay will be indicted. Those that stay, those that stay are going to go. I mean, like, this is crazy, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy story. And like I said, when I read it, I'm just not surprised by much, but this one's kind of thrown me for a loop for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a part of some pretty large organizations. I've been, in charge of a lot of people throughout my life. And in those large organizations, there's certain branches of it, and I've been in charge of when issues occur in those branches, go get them solved, right? The organization I was a part of was very large. It had centers all over the place, and because I was a part of it, certain centers would have issues, right? And sometimes people would be sent to fix those issues. Well, every single time, right? Those issues, right? Because you only get called if the issues continue to happen. You know what I'm saying? So every time when you go over there and you want to fix that problem, you start at the top. You don't start at the bottom to go look at these employees that are doing these wrong things, right? Because if 5 of your employees get caught and in trouble for doing the same thing, then clearly there's an issue going on above. And I think several people, if you're listening to this and you've been, part of a sports team or part of something like that, that's just what it is, man. Whoever's in charge is the one that leads the culture. That kind of the culture, it rolls downhill, man. That's just what it is. I'm not saying that very elegantly, but I'm sure people are aware of what I'm saying. But yeah, that is the thing that is way more disturbing to me. And I legit do pray that Kyle Whittingham coming in changes, right? That. But unfortunately, we still see, I mean, I know this is something in the past, but we still see things going on that do bring up red flags. And you bring up Ward Manuel, right? So apparently, Coach Harbaugh leaves, then Sharon Moore comes in, and there's still crazy, wild things going on. Now a new coach has come in. Nothing as crazy as what we've been dealing with, but something still that brings up a little bit of a red flag has happened. So where is it? Right? How far up does this thing go where people are just okay? Because I if I had to guess, I would venture to guess that's what it is. That their number one priority is winning football games, and that's quite literally it. Nothing else matters, right? Literally. People can go do anything else as long as you are winning football games, because none of these things came to the light. No coaches were fired until, people got busted publicly or somebody lost a football game and Sharon Moore loses the job. That's what's dumbfounding to me, because you cannot tell me that if Spiro can go dig and find these things, nobody else can. Nobody else can unearth these things. Insiders that maybe covered the team, nobody else knew about any of these things that were going on. It's very disturbing, to me. Very disturbing.
Well, I think you make a great point, Deb, and it's just the idea that a fish rots from the head down. The old adage is so true, and these things start at the top, and there's absolutely an environment up there where the only thing that matters is winning football games, and it doesn't matter whether you're cheat, it doesn't matter whether you're whatever you're doing, on the sideline in your life, in your personal life, with staffers, with other people. It doesn't matter as long as you're winning, and it all came down when Ohio State went up to Ann Arbor and slapped them around. And then after that, then stuff comes out. And that's, you know, I look at that, and I in every organization, bad things can happen. Bad things can happen to good people, bad things can happen to bad people. You can have stuff happens. But when you have just the quantity of stuff across staffs, just dozens of people doing just horrific things, then I think it's okay to go and say, is there a systemic issue? Is there a cultural issue? Is there a real problem? Because this isn't an isolated incident. This isn't one guy doing something bad, making a bad decision, making a bad judgment or whatever. This is repeated activity, um, known by the hires up and covered up. The story at Michigan's always about the cover up. The story is always about they knew about stuff. They turned the other, they turned it an eye. They didn't report. They weren't, responsible in terms of taking care of, reporting mandates, whether it be to the NCAA, whether it be to Michigan administration, whether it be to human resources, whether it be the police. They didn't do any of that. They chose to cover it up. Why? Because they want to protect the football program. It's all about protecting the football program, and for Michigan, that's the only thing that matters up there. And I'll say a lot of things about Ohio State, but Ohio State loves their football. Ohio State loves the Buckeyes. They love the tradition, but they're not going to cover up crimes. They're not going to cover up this stuff. And I point back to the Jim Tressel thing. That was all self-reported. That was all done from an internal review where
Yeah.
they turned it on. This wasn't deputy dog from the NCAA sniffing around and finding some hidden emails. Or this was Ohio State turning this information over to the NCAA. And you just have to ask yourself, if this is the stuff that we know, Dev, all this stuff is that we know, that you as a podcaster slash reporter has been hearing all this stuff, all this thousands of items. What don't we know? What stuff?
Yeah.
What other stuff are they covering up, Dev? Because, do you think for a second that we know it all? Do you think that we know everything that has been going on up there?
No, man. I mean, I would be. I would be. This might sound absolutely astounding, but I would be surprised if we know 25% of it. Like legit. I would be shocked if somehow we could know everything that has occurred since Jim Harbaugh was there. If somebody told me 25% of it has been brought to the light, I would be like, "Dang, really? Wow. That seems high." Am I you think I'm off there, man?
I mean, I don't think we know 5%. I
That's
don't
what I'm
think we,
saying.
I was gonna say I don't think we know 5% of what's going on up there. I mean,
Yeah.
I just it gives me pause when I say that, but I really believe that. I just think it's an out of control program. And look, hiring Kyle Whittingham was a step in the right direction. But what you want to see is you want to see when this video comes out of this players hotboxing, kick somebody off the team, Kyle. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do something to like show that you're taking this stuff seriously. Otherwise, you're going to just get back. And I'm afraid that Kyle's an older guy. He's kind of got the mandate. He wants to win there in Michigan. That he's and Kyle's a good guy, and I've heard it from a lot of people, but I just don't know if he's paying attention the way that he would have 10, 15, 20 years ago. And you just wonder if this is just going to continue to go on up there. And if I was a fan of a program that was this out of control, I couldn't be a fan of it. I just couldn't. And I've never been a fan of those teams where players are always getting arrested or kicked off the team or the bad boy. But this is beyond that. I mean, this, like you
Yeah.
said, this is good and evil. This is bad. This is dark side stuff, and it's not happening like we're pulling something where some guy once coached at Michigan and this was the head coach. This was the head football coach, and not back in 1971. This was 90 days ago.
Yeah.
90 days ago, this stuff was going on with Sharon Moore, and that's supposed to be okay, and it's just not okay.
Yeah. There's a pattern that I have seen in myself and like just in humans in general. It's that when they get away with something, 9 times out of 10, they're going to do it again and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So when you have a culture of breaking the rules and nothing happens to you, you know, what's stopping you from doing more things that you shouldn't do? Because there's zero accountability. NCAA doesn't hold you accountable. The university's not holding you accountable. And then things just spiral out of control. I mean, I don't know who can argue that. If you get if a little kid gets caught doing something, they're going to keep doing it again, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. They're going to, instead of taking one cookie out of the cookie jar, if you don't do anything to them that first time and at least let them know not to do it, next time they take in the whole cookie jar, man. You know what I'm saying? And it just gets wild. But I mean, even on a whole different level, I understand this is way beyond cheating to win a football game. This is beyond those things, but it's still a culture and an atmosphere of doing things you should not do. I mean, the stuff I've heard about of recruiting, some of their recruiting strategies, and some of the things that they allow, just in their recruiting thing is stuff I don't report on, stuff I don't talk about, because it's just like, dude, it's too much, it's too far. Like, what do why do you think you need to go to that level? But you know again, I do, like you said, I hope that Kyle can come in and turn some things around, but I think accountability is where that starts. You can't let you know based off of the past and everything that has happened, you can't even let something tiny slip by, because there's just been an atmosphere of doing absolutely whatever you want inside that program from the top down. And that leads to other things. People start, I mean, when Jim Harbaugh is in there telling his recruiting staff, I don't give a dang about, the COVID no contact period. We're not worried about that. Who knows what that has turned into? You know what I'm saying? And the truth is, those things do turn into more and more serious things than just a culture of doing whatever the hell you want. So it's wild.
Well, it's funny you asked me, pre-show. You're like, "Can I put the tweet up on the screen?" And I'm like, Dev, I don't think we can put it up there because it's so
Yeah.
graphic, and so we can't even read it to you guys because every other word's going to be like bleep 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 bleep. So we're gonna have to. You guys are gonna have to do it for yourself. You have to, you can ascertain for yourself the veracity of it all. It seems very well documented and sourced with pictures of phone call logs, actual copies of tweets, transcriptions of voicemail messages. I mean, there's a lot in there. There's a lot to unwind. It looked pretty legitimate. Justin is a very careful reporter, and as you
Yes.
said, when you're reporting something like this, you have to be careful because you can certainly get yourself into a real pickle if you're not accurate and you're not that. But this is about as well sourced. It's so well sourced up that, like I said, I was getting nauseous kind of reading it because it's graphic. It's
Yeah.
graphic. But I I just wonder where does Michigan go? What do you think they do with this, Deb? You now have been observing Michigan from afar now for a bit. You've seen all this. You know what's wrong. This story breaks. One, what do you think the reaction of the fan base will be? And
Mm.
then two, what do you think the reaction of Michigan administration will be? Because I've got my own theories, but I want to hear give me your honest answer. What do you think? How will the fan base? And I know the fan base is not, they're not homogenous. They don't have one. But what do you think the general view of this story will be from the Michigan fan base?
Well, normally when Spiro tweets something, you see below, you know, all these wild comments about how he's making stuff up, and just that type of mentality of not believing him, all that. I found it interesting. I'm looking at the comments right now. I don't see one single comment like that of, oh, you're making stuff up now. Why? Because he had all those pictures and stuff in there. But if I had to guess, the fan base will say, well, he's no longer a part of the team, so they've corrected that issue. And probably that's the university's response. Probably a whole lot of nothing and just acting like it's no longer their problem. It ain't got nothing to do with them anymore because they have gotten rid of him. They're not going to feel like they should be held accountable for any of this in any type of way. The I'm not sure the fan base can come in and do their normal response of, oh wow, you guys are just upset that we beat you for those times, or their normal response of shoving it under the rug and acting like this is a big nothing burger because we're rivals and because Justin Spiro loves Ohio State, and those type of things. These are things that need to be brought to the light. People should be held accountable for these things because it's the only way you stop them from happening again. If people don't get held accountable for it, then it's just going to continue to happen. And no, is the university going to, come out with some type of statement and try to be in some heroic way? No, not at all. Is the fan base? I don't even see, like, all I see is a bunch of people that already don't like Michigan in these comments talking about how disgusting it is. I'm sure there are a couple like Michigan fans in here talking about it, but I don't see many in here coming and calling Sharon Moore whatever he should or would be called doing these type of things.
Well, yeah, and no, and I think you nailed it. I think you're right. I think that's exactly
Yeah.
how they'll kind of play it. But it'd be kind of like finding out that that Ryan Day this entire time was like a serial killer or something. Like he was like Jeffrey, he was like boiling people in the basement or doing something. And you're like, wait a second, wouldn't you as an Ohio State fan have to go, wow, that was bad that our head coach was actually a serial killer this whole time. I mean, this Sharon Moore was a predator. He was a sexual predator out there on the hunt all the time. And he was the head football coach at University of Michigan. And they were fine with it. They were fine with it because we missed two field goals and lost the game 13-10 in 2024, and that Sharon Moore somehow had the magic touch and would never lose a game against Ohio State. And I mean, literally, that's what it was. But this guy was actually a predator, and
Yeah,
he was
legit.
legit, and he was an
Yeah.
active predator as the head football coach at the university. While they had Matt Weiss, a real serial predator. I mean, what are the odds that that happens on the same staff at the same time in the same place while you're having Connor Stallions doing the largest on-field cheating scandal in college football all at the same time? This was all going on at the same time. It,
It's
it,
I know. It's dude, you can't make this up. Like if you were going to try to write a book, a very entertaining book about a corrupt program, you wouldn't even put in this many corrupt things. They'd be like, no, that's over the top. That's too much. It's not going to seem realistic. Nobody's going to believe that all of these things are going to happen in the same place. It's too much. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
but this is
exactly.
real. This is actually real. And actually, that's the thing. And their response the entire time, what would have happened if they would have taken accountability, right, for the sign stealing stuff like they should have and just cleared house? How many of this mess, right, would have not happened? Because this is in 2024, man. These allegations right here happened in 2024. So what would have happened if the second this happened, instead of waiting for the NCAA, the university jumped in and started doing their own internal investigation? Maybe the red flags go up and say, oh man, there seems to be a lot of realistic stuff about this. Let's do an internal investigation. Boom. They do the internal investigation. They uncover all this other stuff that's been slowly uncovered over the past 3 or 4 years. That's what they should have done. Look how much heartache and all this stuff would have been not existent because it wouldn't have happened. Because if people would have been held accountable, then they wouldn't be here to do those things. So it's
But let me give you an alternate scenario, though, Deb. Like, let's put we're playing what if game, okay?
yeah,
And I know this is kind of unthinkable, but you need to just kind of grit your teeth and go through this hypothetical. What if
yeah,
Sharon Moore had beaten Ryan Day this November in Ann Arbor instead of
dude, I
losing?
know.
I mean, so let me ask you a question: would he still be the head football coach at University of Michigan?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I mean, and
There's no
that's not.
Dev. There's
Yeah,
no question.
that's
100%. He would
yeah.
be the head coach. There ain't no way they're firing him for an affair, with a
Yeah.
staffer.
Okay.
He is the head football coach at the University of Michigan right now, today.
Yeah. So play this out now, right? If he still is, then that means he doesn't have his psychotic outbreak and all of these other things. They don't come to the light because of that, right? Certain things came to the light because of his psychotic outbreak, meaning this would be the moment, right? Unless Spiro would have dropped something prior to that. But this would now be the moment where we have publicly seen somebody has broke a story on the type of person and individual that he is. This would be that moment right now because, before that, um, I mean, I guess wasn't Spiro. Oh yeah, no, Spiro was. Spiro was on top of it before his psychotic outbreak because we did that show with him before.
Yeah. I mean, look, Michigan had all the information. They knew he was a serial
Yeah,
philanderer. They knew he was sleeping with his secretary. They know that he'd impregnated his executive assistant. They knew all this stuff. The only reason the only reason he went crazy is because they now moved on him and fired him. And then
yep,
now all of a sudden it's a problem. It wasn't disclosure. It wasn't the fact that the affair had been uncovered. His whatever the chick's name, feta pizza or whatever the heck that thing was. I mean, that wasn't the thing. It was the hey, and by the way, Sharon, you no longer are the head football coach at the University of Michigan. That's
yeah.
what drove him to attempt the murder suicide with the butter. Hide your butter knives, Devin. Tonight, put your butter knives away to make sure that you're safe tonight. So,
Eh,
I mean,
dude, and
he's
again,
still he's still be the coach right now. I'm telling you, February
I know.
25th or whatever, he'd be the head football coach running around out there, probably texting some OnlyFans model right now.
And again, Justin Spiro's the one that's reporting this and holding them accountable. Justin Spiro. There's nobody like connected with that program that has any type of desire to hold anybody accountable to make their university better. Nobody. Nobody wants. Nobody. It has to be, somebody that's really not even connected to the program like that, not a fan, not a reporter. Somebody's got to step in and do it. Like, I agree with what he's doing. These things need brought to the light so they do not happen again. It's a shame that nobody in that uh, dude, I would be hard pressed to truly believe that Spiro's the only one that uncovered this and knew about this. Really? You think that, Nevada?
Well, I think, look, Justin is the hardest working guy by far, harder working than all those lazy guys on the Michigan beat. But they, do I think they all knew and they cared? No, I think some are just lazy and they don't know anything. Some just parrot the party line.
Yeah.
Um, but the idea that they just willfully have kind of gone along with it, absolutely. Those guys, man, they march in lockstep better than any group that I've ever seen before, man. They just say the same things, do the same things, repeat the same talking points. Like they get like a memo and they just say the same stuff all the time. So yeah, for the Michigan, if you're a Michigan fan who like subscribes to those sites, don't you have to be like, hey, guys, just a little questionnaire from the back. How come Justin Spiro keeps breaking all these stories about Michigan and you guys never know what's going on in this program, like at
Yeah.
all? Like at all. You don't know anything that's going on in the program. Why? Yeah, so you call yourself insiders, but you have no information. What and everything you give us is misinformation. It's crazy that that's still a business.
Hey, would if Ohio State did this, would this string of events be more nationally reported than what it is?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Ohio State's 50 times more relevant in the college football world than Michigan is. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan is helped by their relative obscurity, but they're not like San Antonio State or something. So they're still a program and they have a name, but no, they don't have nearly the cachet that Ohio State has. This would be an everyday top of ESPN leading off Sports Center type of story. And because it's Michigan, it's just Tuesday. So
Yeah. It's insane. Well, anyway, I'm going to do something a little different for tonight's show. We're going to do the super chats involving this, Nevada, and then we do have to touch on, there's several super chats on it. We're going to touch on it anyway. These Buckeyes in the combine right now are just absolute freaks. But let's do this here. Steely, thanks for the $1.99. Sherwin Moore as a sick puppy, unreal stuff. It, quite legit is unreal. Like I said, you could write a book on it and people would say you went too far. Steely, thanks for the $1.99 again. The Jim Harbaugh scum tree grows. Yeah, that's one of the most interesting things. Not interesting, but one of the more dumbfounding things to me is the most common denominator in all this is Jim Harbaugh and probably Ward Manuel. You could probably throw him in there at this point in time. Nevada, any on those two? I got three more on this subject.
well, yeah, no, it is super disturbing, hard to read, very hard to read. Like and I'm not uncomfortable in my. I was uncomfortable reading that, and yeah, the fact that Jim Harbaugh, they all sprung from the Jim Harbaugh coaching tree. Um, it just that guy is he's just completely morally bankrupt, and he ran a morally bankrupt program, and this is what you get.
And the dude's coaching in the NFL, Nevada. The dude
I
is
oh
off living a happy life, making millions, just not a worry in the world. Not a worry in the world, man. Steely, thanks for the $1.99. The Michigan podcasters are lurking and what? Oh, 100%. More than the Michigan podcasters, you have some other haters out there that are lurking as well. I'm sure are going to have some things to say, but very lost individuals that need a lot of. This is my take on it. Nevada's going to say something else. Very lost individuals that need prayer and need help. The Michigan lurkers and that other small group of people that seem to have nothing else to do but to troll on this show and say insane things. Nevada,
yeah. I just don't even know what to say. Yeah. Just hey, there's a
all
reason why
righty,
we're number one, man, and
amen,
I,
bro.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Steely, thanks for the $1.99 again. The Bozo Brigade lives. Yes, they do, Steely. Yes, they do. That I'm beginning to think that ironically, my mess up in the beginning of the show was actually quite perfect. I did not mean to play that video of them hotboxing in the locker room. I swear. I meant to play the Scoop intro video. That's what I meant to play. And here we go. Ryan, thanks for the $9.99. Nice intro today. It looked like $12 million flushed down the drain. It's a cesspool up there, and it'll go right back to bad after Kyle Whittingham leaves. Don't understand how Ward still has a job. Couldn't agree with you more. Nevada, what you got on that?
Well, Ward still has a job because they have to complete this internal investigation so they can fire him for cause. So just don't mistake what's going on with that. He signed a new contract. They can save tens of millions of dollars by firing him for cause. They're waiting for that thing to drop. That's the only reason why, why he's up there right now. So have faith. The sequence of events is internal investigation gets finished, then Ward Manuel leaves, but it has to be finished before he can leave.
Yeah, gotcha. Nevada, moving on. Buckeyes, obviously, defensive linemen and linebackers. Is it just D tackles? There's no defensive ends, right? Or is there today? I don't follow this stuff all that well, but I do. I have heard a lot of Caden McDonald today. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles are blowing up the combine with their measurables, some of their workouts, and all that. The Buckeyes could, like you said, Buckeyes, Mel Kiper had 4 of the top 7. I do believe we have 4 of the top 10 draft picks, and 2 of them are on display tonight. And Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. Geo has several good super chats on this. We'll get into, but anything on that before we dive into these super chats?
Well, I think what makes it amazing is coming off. You have remember that last year we sent 14 guys to the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
that's the thing. And oh yeah, and by the way, and Jeremiah Smith and Julian Saint are not in this draft. So it's like
yeah,
it just shows you the ridiculous amount of talent that Ohio State had stockpiled. You know how they partly. I mean, at least they didn't waste it. They got a national championship in 2024. Took it out, didn't did in 2025, but insane amount of talent. I saw one of the there's so many numbers that are eye popping, but Sonny Styles 43.5-inch vertical leap.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that's really good. That's really good.
Dude, yeah. On that note, you said glad they didn't waste it, right? That's what I was going to ask you. It is I would be lying to you if I didn't catch some type of feelings watching all this talent and thinking, dang man, we didn't even win. We could have at least beat Miami. All those things. But the fact that we did win a national title with Sonny Styles, with K Mac, with Arvell Reese, with Caleb Downs. So, those fans out there that are saying we wasted this talent, are they
No,
forgetting we won a national title with
I
them?
mean, Dev, we've won in my lifetime. We won in 68, 2002, 2014, 15, whatever you want to call that year, and 2024. So like we've won 4 times in my lifetime. So yeah, no, the fact that we had one championship while they were there, that is not wasting the talent.
Yeah,
That's muy bueno.
yeah. Geo, thanks for the $5, brother. Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese both ran a 4.4740 just now at the NFL Combine. Sonny Styles 6'5", 243. Arvell Reese 6'4", 241. Goodness, yeah. That time, when you look at that time and you realize that these are both 6'4", 6'5", 240-pound dudes, um, that's intense. I'm going to throw a question in there, Nevada, to this response. Does Sonny Styles get drafted above Arvell Reese?
Um, I don't think so, only because Arvell is an edge, and I think an edge are just a little bit more valuable. But I mean, Sonny's not. I mean, I'm not even sure. I mean, look, Sonny was always going to be a great draft prospect based upon just his measurables alone. He's a physical freak, but the jump that he made in the last year under Matt Patricia and James Laurinaitis, unbelievable job. To turn
Yeah,
himself into that kind of player, unbelievable job. Because I'm not saying I was down on Sonny Styles before last year, but I was thought like, good player, really good player. But man,
yeah,
he went from good player to otherworldly good, and that defense was otherworldly good. And you just feel what you feel that we wasted an opportunity is that the defense was so good and we had all the pieces there on offense that we feel like we could have done a little bit more. But again, it takes so much. People don't want to hear it, but you have to have a little bit of luck along the way to win a national championship. And last year, I just didn't feel like we got the luck, and so we came up a little bit short. But yeah, these great Buckeyes, and they're going to be very rich young men here pretty very shortly.
Yeah, another thing that can ease that pain, Nevada, is that most of this, top end talent that all of this top end talent we're talking about the Buckeyes had was on the defensive side of the ball. Well, let me remind you, the Buckeyes had the number one defense in the nation, and we did not lose any games because of our defense. So, that should give you a little bit of, when you got this type of talent, you should have the number one defense in the nation, and that we did. And also, we didn't just win a national title last year. The closest game in the playoff was 11 points. That was the closest game. So, the talent was used very well to win us a national title. Gio, thanks for the $2, brother. Also, Sonny Styles, 43-inch vertical, 11.2 broad jump. Wow. Yeah, Nevada, you brought that up. You also brought up something as well that I think because of Arvell Reese, it got swept under the rug. How much better Sonny Styles was this year? I don't hear that talked about near enough. As I hear Arvell Reese talked about all the time, but the leap that Sonny Styles made was pretty spectacular this year, and you just brought that up.
Yeah, no, he was incredible, and that's why when we're looking at guys for this year, just you got to remember, guys improve, guys make jumps. Caden Curry got a lot better. Arvell Reese got a lot better. Sonny Styles got a lot better. Caleb Downs couldn't get much better because he was already great. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
Yeah,
guys get better, and that should give you hope for the 2026 defense because you see these guys going. But yes, Sonny, just a great kid from a great family, and going to be a very very wealthy young man because those are crazy numbers.
yeah. Gia, thanks for the $2. He corrected us. It was or he corrected his initial chat. The official time was 4:46 on both of their 40s, so they're actually faster than what we thought they were. Absolute maniacs, man. Nevada, you got any final thoughts on the show before we get on up out of here?
Well, we're talking about maniacs. So we got Sonny Styles and we got Arville Reese and we got Sharon Moore. We got two athletic maniacs and one just sexual deviant. But yeah, no, it's the maniac show. Happy for the Buckeyes at the combine, but I got to be honest with you, it makes me sad when I see it because I know that they're not playing for Ohio State anymore, and so you just realize what we're missing. So it's bittersweet. So I'm happy
Yeah,
for the guys. I'm happy that, but boy, it was a ridiculous amount of talent. And 4.46 for the guys that big is crazy. Go back and look at how many guys haven't run faster than 4.46. I'm talking about like running. Yeah, what did Trey Henderson run last? I mean, it wasn't a lot faster
yeah.
than 4.46. You know what
No,
I'm
dude.
saying? So it's like and these guys are 6'5", 243 pounds. So yeah, I'm happy for them, but it does make me a little sad.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be fun watching these Buckeyes throughout the combine. Also, tomorrow, strap in, hit the alert bell. I'm not sure who all's going to go tomorrow, but there's a lot of good information got dropped on the Buckeye Scoop board today. We'll be talking about that, some intel on some of these freshmen in the workouts, offensive changes that are coming to these Buckeyes, man. So if you're not on that Scoop message board, subscribe, get on over there, check it out. A lot of good nuggets dropped on the board today. Hit that like button on your way out, please. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you for your super chats today. If you are listening on Spreaker or Apple Podcast, it's free, it's easy. Give us a like button. On that note, we appreciate you guys for joining tonight. Love you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH.
I